Hey, site shedders, let me ask you something. If you could travel the world to amazing locations and do it in a way that you could claim it as a business expense, would that sound like a good idea to you? Well, let me tell you about a little program that we've got running at the Site Shed. Back in 2016, we kicked off our Travel and Learn program, and the first one we did was Ski and Learn in New Zealand. We took a bunch of Site Shed listeners and podcast trade business enthusiasts over to Wanaka, and we skied in the morning. We did a business workshop in the afternoon, and we did that for a week. And only in February of 2018, we did the second one in Hakuba in Japan, where we took a bunch of Site Shed enthusiasts across to Japan, and we skied in the morning, we did a business workshop in the afternoon. And guys, the reason we put this program together is because, we know as hard as business owners, as trade business owners, when you're tied to location, it's very hard to get away to amazing, destinations around the world. And more to the point, when you do want to travel, you often do it in a way that you want to make sure that it's justifiable from a business point of view. So we thought, why not combine the two? Why not make an amazing business experience and an amazing holiday tied into one? So that's what we've done. And these Travel and Learn programs are so fantastic. And you can head across to the siteshed.com/events to check out what's been in the past and what's coming up in the future. But what I want to talk to you today about is the one that's coming up in July, which is the very first Surf and Learn program. And that Surf and Learn program is going to be held in the Maldives. That's right, we're taking a group of site shedders over to the Maldives, and we're going to be doing the full boat experience, which is going to be amazing. It's a bucket list item for a lot of people. We've chartered a luxury yacht, and we're going to be spending 7 nights on a yacht, touring around the Maldives, around the atolls there, surfing amazing locations, diving, snorkeling, hanging out, having a great time. And of course, we're going to be running a business workshop in there as well. So you'll be able to invest in your business in a beautiful, beautiful location while sitting on a luxury yacht in the Maldives. So it sounds like a pretty good opportunity, I am sure, to a lot of you guys out there. The caveat is, of course, that we're going to be on a boat, and boats have limited space. As it stands, we only have about 5 spots left. So if it sounds like something you want to do, head across to the siteshed.com/events. And you can navigate towards the Surf and Learn Maldives page there, where you'll be able to see all the information relevant to the trip. And of course, you'll be able to secure your position with a deposit. Anyway, that's all from me. Hopefully I'll see you there. Otherwise, we'll hopefully see you at one of the future events. We're going to be doing a lot of these. So ski surf, ski surf, ski surf. And we may be throwing in a few other ones in between. So that's all from me. With all of the talk going around at the moment about data protection and making sure that client information is secure and protected, I thought it would be a good time and a pretty applicable time to create a podcast on how you guys can be collecting data and how you should be doing it the right way. If you've been reading the news lately, you would have heard that there was a massive breach at Facebook, and as a result, they've sort of had the spotlight put on them. And then, of course, over in the EU at the moment, there's the General Data Protection Regulation, which is about to kick off in May. Of course, neither of these things really mean a whole lot to us as small business owners. However, I think the principles behind what these movements have been implemented for are going to be relevant for us small business owners. So this podcast is about that, and I've actually made this a screen recording as well, so you can head across to the siteshed.com and you can navigate to this page where you'll be able to see the screen recording. Don't worry too much if you can't get to this one to view it, because it's really just a set of points that I'm running through. However, it is there if you so wish. Anyway, the bottom line is, guys, you should be collecting information and you should certainly be growing your database. However, there are right and wrong ways to be doing it. So the point of this podcast is to help you guys set yourself on the right path and make sure that you are doing it correctly. Okay, enjoy.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
G'day, guys, and welcome to the Site Shed. I'm actually recording this as a podcast, so for the listeners out there, if you want to get a visual representation talking about here, you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you will find this podcast. Podcast is going to be talking about using data and collecting data. So there's a couple of things that have been coming up of late, both conversations with, not so much in the with clients, and of course there's been a lot of talk now in the European Union about the upcoming GDPR, which I'll get into a little bit. However, the fundamentals of what I want to talk about today is pretty much applicable to any business. And at the end of the day, it comes down to how you go about collecting data, managing data, and using data. And when we're talking about data, we're really referring to, in this instance, customer details. So how you use and leverage your database, how you build your database, how you communicate with your database, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to talk about today, and a couple of things that have spurred this conversation on. Primarily, there's been a couple of conversations with clients in relation to starting to collect data through their websites. And it's really important, guys, that we do start collecting data through the websites. It's one of the reasons why we have in development the automation program. It's so that you guys can start collecting data, collecting potential customers, current customers, that kind of thing, so that you can start communicating to. And the reason that we do that is because it's, well, first of all, if they're not a customer yet, we want to try and make them a customer. And by educating and nurturing, that will allow us to do that. Secondly, for your existing and past customers, we know statistically that you're a lot more likely to retain than to gain a new one. So from a cost saving and conversion perspective, it's much better off to invest your some resource, a considerable amount of resource for that matter, into a retention campaign as opposed to the traditional sort of turn and burn mentality. If you want to know a little bit more about what we're talking about, you can head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/automation. There's a bit of info in there with screenshots and all that kind of carry on. It's not really, it's a bit of a segue, I suppose, to what I'm really talking about here. What we're really talking about is more, I suppose, the fundamentals of collecting data, how to best use it, practices, how to communicate, and all that kind of thing. So don't get too caught up in the how. This is more about what, and I suppose the legalities behind doing it correctly and doing it incorrectly. And there's a few things that are coming out now. Probably won't affect the majority of you guys, to be honest. However, I think there's some key points that can be taken from this movement in the EU. And I think it will affect you at some point. I think we'll start seeing some trends that will come as a result, and I'm going to go through that in a little bit. So I'm just going to jump quickly into a quick screen recording here. So as you can see, I've put together a few little, but this presentation here, it's not really a presentation, it's just more some points. So if you guys listening to this on the podcast, you don't have to necessarily feel like you need to watch this. I've just put these points together more for the Facebook community and, of course, for me to actually keep on track. So the GDPR, which is the General Protection Regulation, and it is a regulation that's being launched in the EU, so the European Union. And the thing basically is about protecting the consumer from spam. You guys know, there's a lot of spam marketing going on out there. And at the end of the day, our personal details, they're valuable and they're being abused to a degree. Now, of course, this practice is only being implemented in the EU at the moment. However, I think that we'll probably start seeing a lot of trends that were going to emerge as a result of this practice. So what I want to do with you guys is I just want to set some foundations. And the worst scenario is, when you come the time that it does get released and launched, some sort of regulation gets, launched over here. You don't want to have to go right back to this drawing board to make sure that everything is running okay. In an ideal world, you want to sort of set up what you're doing at the moment so that it's being done correctly. And at the end of the day, when those changes do come out, it's not a big deal, and it potentially will not be a big deal ever. So it's kind of common, to be honest. However, this regulation, although it does kind of speak a little bit more to, like the larger style businesses, like the enterprise kind of businesses, I think the principles that this regulation portrays are relevant to business in general. And so you can't really go too far wrong. I'm just going to best practice here. So it really ties back into the opt-in. And for those of you guys that aren't familiar with the term opt-in, what it basically means is how consumers or how are potential customers or leads or whatever you want to call them, how are they entering into your community database, marketing campaign, whatever you want to call it, okay? Normally what happens is if it's through a website, you'll find that normally some sort of lead magnet, and people will opt in for the lead magnet. When they go into the lead magnet, they're basically part of your database and you can start communicating to them. So that kind of thing is fine. There's a couple of little things there. There's like single opt-ins and there's two-factor authentication, two-factor opt-ins, which is when, two-factor authentication is totally different. You can get the double or you can get the single opt-in. And the double opt-in is when, and you would have all experienced this at some point. So when you go to a web page or you download an ebook or something like that, it then says, okay, please check your email to confirm that this is you. So that is a double opt-in. The reason they do is obviously so they can't, put bots on there that just go and collect data and opt in sort of and blah, blah, blah. So that is a very safe way of doing things. So if you wanted to most of the email marketing programs will facilitate that. Actually, I would probably say for the better part, they all do. And if they don't, you should probably go to a different one. But what it doesn't include when we're talking about opt-ins is things like, okay, if you somehow acquire a database and it's in the form of a spreadsheet, for example, or a CSV file or whatever, you can't just simply take a spreadsheet and you can't upload your email marketing campaign, send it out to people that have not opted into that list, okay? That is considered spam. So this is some common errors that happen in regard to that. When you're collating your database, it may in a number of different, so for example, you might have a huge following on LinkedIn and you want to upload all your contacts, you download your contacts, you can't actually upload those contacts. Well, you're not legally allowed to upload those contacts into your email marketing program because those people have not yet opted in for or to be part of that community, okay? Same thing goes if you're using job management, project management, bookkeeping, cloud bookkeeping, whatever it is, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, people that are in that marketing program have got to have opted in for it. They've got to basically throw their hand up and said, yep, I'm wanting to receive communications about this. So just be very careful when you're navigating that path around who's part of this community, who's been added to this community, but has not actually thrown their hand up to be part of it, because that is something that I think we're going to see a lot of movement towards. The other thing that you need to consider as well is you've got to give them the ability to be able to opt out of communication. So you'd all be familiar with the unsubscribe button, click here to stop receiving these communications, all that kind of stuff. So that is actually part of the spam regulation as well. You really need to have that for people. So if people do get sick of your emails, there's got to be a way that they can click on a button to get out of it, okay? And if you're not quite clear on the whole opt-in process, I'll try and reframe it a little bit for you. So say, for example, you've got on your website a checklist, a how-to guide, maybe an ebook, something like that. So something of value to a visitor. That's the idea anyway, okay? So when somebody comes to your website, they see something of value to them and they download that document. And then in exchange for the document, they're basically giving you their personal contact details, normally first name and email address. So it's not necessarily a bad thing either, guys. Like don't think, oh, okay, well, I've got to stop this process. Like it's not about stopping it. Like you should be actively building your database 100%. But because it's an asset, right? Like it's a business asset and it's valuable. However, what you need to be careful of is how you go about doing it. And again, it's not yet being overly enforced outside of the EU. However, I think common sense would tell the majority of us that it is smart to start putting these things into practices because it from a consumer's perspective, it makes sense, right? Okay, so then we're going to jump on to some of the communications and how you communicate with people that are already part of your database. So for existing customers, existing members, or people that are part of your community or whatever you call it, you need to be able to clarify the couple of things. Like, what was the consent? When was it given? And can you prove it? So it doesn't fly if you can just say, oh, no, they asked me to send them this and they asked me to put them on their mailing list. Like, you need to be able to prove it. And so the good thing about some of these email marketing programs is they can actually show you a detailed timeline of that transaction or what that relationship looks like for that person. And that's important. We interrupt this podcast today to talk to you very quickly about Tradie Web Guy's content creation program. That program has been designed specifically for trade-based organizations as a way that you guys as trade business owners can start creating content that enables you to engage better with your customers and your potential customers. It will enable you to build trust and build rapport because what you're doing is you're investing in educating them. Biggest problem that we see with our customers today is that they're not regularly updating their websites. And that's a problem because first of all, the search engines are looking for that. And second of all, potential customers are also looking for it. Tradie Web Guy's content creation program has been specifically designed to help you get regular, relevant content on your website consistently every month. We know that it's hard when you're out there on the tools, and we know that sometimes you don't always have the time to be able to do these things yourself. So we're taking it off your hands for you. It's a service that we're offering for you guys. We want to make sure that you're getting this done because we know how important it is. Anyway, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/content, fill in the form, and one of our representatives will come back to you. So the other thing is, for new subscribers, so people that aren't yet part of your community, however, they're just joining, is the opt-in that they're signing up for, is it relevant to what you're sending them? So, for example, you might have multiple lists within your email marketing program. One of them may be, let's say you've got a plumbing building company, for example. You might send out different campaigns to plumbing customers and building customers. Now, they might be two separate lists. They may not be, but they may be. This is just an example. I'm sort of paraphrasing here, shooting off the top of my head, but technically you've got to make sure that they've opted in for the right list and the right communications. That's the idea anyway, okay? And some of these programs, which I'll also show you in a second, they're very good at enabling you to segment, and I'll show you what I mean by that through tagging and that kind of thing. You should also be thrown into the new subscribers is offline mediums. And what I mean by offline mediums is things like if you're presenting at an event, or if you're going to like a networking or a BNI breakfast or something like that, you technically shouldn't be taking a whole bunch of business cards from people that you get at these events and then sending it off to your assistant so he or she can enter them into your email marketing program. It's not really, they haven't opted in for anything there. So the workaround around that, of course, guys, is, so the thing with spam laws is it's basically trying to reduce people just going out there and just trying to flog their stuff to people. So the workaround for it is you can reach out, you can send an unsolicited email to people. However, that email can't necessarily be selling something. So the workaround would be in this scenario, if you did collect a whole bunch of business cards at a BNI event or whatever it might be, the email that you would send out would not be, hey, great to meet you the other day. By the way, we sell this, this, and this. Go get it now, kind of thing. That wouldn't work. But what you could do is you could say, hey, great to meet you the other day. I know we had a conversation around, home renovations or whatever it was. Here's an ebook that we created. Feel free to jump along and get it. Feel free to jump in and get it if you think that's something that you'd be interested in. And then they can click on a link there that can take them to an opt-in on your website. So that does count because then they're opting in for it, okay? So you just got to basically empower them with the decision, empower them with the ability to be able to make a decision in the sense of, okay, yeah, I do want to receive this. If I don't want to receive this, it's not so much you just grabbing them and going, bang, you're in that list and now you're going to receive all my stuff. And again, you still need to be able to prove it. So what I'm going to show you is, I'm just going to jump quickly into the email marketing program that we use. And this is I don't know who this is, someone, Jay. And you can see here on the right-hand side, there's a whole bunch. And for those of you that are listening, what this program does is it enables you to, once people come into the list, I can see when they subscribed, I can see how they subscribed, and then I can see all the various communications and actions that have happened that person contact has taken throughout the journey of them being part of our community. So, I can see when they've opened an email, I can see when they've clicked on links, I can see when they've visited links from within campaigns and all that kind of stuff. And there's an endless, really, amount of details here. And you'll also see as well, we've got the ability here to apply tags. And the tags are what enable us to ascertain what these people have been in, what our contacts have been interested in. So if we wanted to send out separate communications to somebody that's interested in, I don't know, innovation, for example, well, we know these guys are interested in innovation because they downloaded the innovation blueprint. So then we can then send out separate communications to them based off the fact that we have not only data in the system, but we have segmented data in the system. So that becomes very powerful when you start growing and you start doing a lot of like customized marketing. And there's some really cool little tricks and tips that you can do with these programs, which put the visitor in a position where they make a certain decision. They can go down a certain path of communications. For example, here's a book on home renovations, or maybe you have two books. Hey guys, here's an ebook on home renovations. There's another one we've got on hot water heaters, how to maintain your hot water heaters, whatever it is. Both of those buttons, if they click on it, you can apply separate tags to each one of them. So you know if they're interested in home renovations or you know if they're interested in hot water heaters. And then you can fire off a different email to those people based off what they're interested in. So it's a really clever way of customizing your communications to make it relevant to that end user. So jumping back in, there's going to be some changes in the future. And I mean, look, I'm not a futurist by any measure. However, I would be willing to bet that a lot of these things will happen at some point. There's going to be a similar regulation to, you know, what we're seeing with the GDPR. There's going to be a similar regulation come around for small businesses. And I don't imagine it's going to be, I imagine that'll be, obviously there's going to be like a government legislation to a degree. So I think we'll probably start seeing markets sort of implement similar things around the world at some point. And to be honest with you guys, I think it's probably for the better. So it's going to be great because it means that it's going to eliminate a lot of these spammy emails and communications that we're currently getting. Web design company, a digital agency, we do websites and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And the amount of emails that we get every day from people trying to sell us websites is just ridiculous. I get the same emails you guys do, right? So it's going to hopefully alleviate a lot of that stuff. Well, anyway, time will tell, right? I think there's going to be stricter remarketing laws. And like remarketing, for those of you that are not familiar, is, and you probably all experienced this at some point, you might go visit a website and you're checking something out, and then you go jump on Facebook and all of a sudden you see all these ads popping up for that company, the website you just visited. And you're like, how does that even happen? Am I reading my mind? Well, yeah, kind of. So what happens is they put a pixel, it's called a pixel, on your device, and then basically they can track then where you visit, and they've got ads that go in place on those various sites. So Google's a prime example, YouTube's another example, Facebook. I mean, you'll see them in lots of places. So I think there'll be stricter laws on remarketing. And what you're probably going to see, and I think as well, like I'm not 100% certain on this, but I'm pretty sure that they have, even as part of they're doing with the GDPR, they're putting limitations on how long companies can retain data, like cookies and, those little strips of code and things like that. So that's going to be good because that means that you're not going to be forever bombarded with, remarketing campaigns and all that kind of stuff. It means that it will have a timeline, it will have an end date for the company. And so they can only market to you for, a month or 2 months, whatever it is, and then bang, it's gone. And that, to be honest with you, that is what it should be anyway. That is how remarketing really was designed. But what happens is people don't really know how to set it up. And as a result, and you've probably experienced this yourselves, when a remarketing campaign is done poorly, all it does is create animosity with you, and you turn around hating that company. You're like, man, these guys just bug the heck out of me. I can't get rid of them. I can't shake them. I mean, I've got to the point sometimes where I've emailed the company. I've said, if you don't take me off this remarketing list, like I'm going to start slaying you on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. So I think there's going to be more stricter limitations on those sort of things coming out. And then one thing you can definitely expect more of, if these legislations do get passed in wherever you guys are, you can definitely start seeing more whinges and people that just basically have nothing better to do, make complaints and justify their time, and then go and tell all their friends how big their muscles are because they made complaints and all that kind of stuff, similar to what I just did to you guys then. So that's pretty much inevitable, and it's going to be an interesting space. Like, there's some monumental fines happening for this sort of stuff. It's not going to be implemented until May, which is just around the corner, but there's a lot of these big enterprise organizations are really sweating on it because there's a lot of money at stake if it's not done correctly. And the other thing is, like, to set this up correctly, it's a lot of resource goes into it. You need huge budgets for these bigger companies. For you guys, you don't need huge budgets. All you need to do is make sure that you're setting it up correctly from the beginning. and you're pretty much sorted. But, for these massive enterprises, like it's a big deal. Like imagine, Facebook, for example, like they've got so much data in there. Like this is going to be a monumental challenge for them. And I know just recently, as many of you guys probably would have heard, there was a big issue with Facebook because they would found out they were releasing data which was not allowed. And, Zuckerberg said, oh, no, it wasn't us, it wasn't our fault, blah, 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 this kind of thing. It was a third-party plugin, blah, 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 whatever. But look, at the end of the day, like it's a massive deal. Like people's personal information is private. It's a privacy breach. And, you can't go doing that kind of stuff. You need to employ protection. You need to make sure that your organization is safe. So who knows how that's going to pan out? I know it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for some of the products we're trying to release. But anyway, when that does happen, we'll let you know. So the bottom line basically, guys, is respect people, respect their privacy, respect their details. I mean, it's the same, as I said before, it's not common sense. You should always be growing your database and don't let this podcast or wherever you're watching the presentation deter you from that. Like you should always be growing your database because your database is your asset. Like at the end of the day, if you ever want to sell your business, you'll be selling two things. You'll be selling your database and you'll be selling the systems and processes that run the business. And that, in 99% of the cases, that's basically what you're selling. That's what people will acquire because they want to know, okay, well, how can I add a list of potential customers to what I'm doing already? So that's the database. And then, from a systems point of view, they're like, okay, well, how can I acquire a business that seemingly runs regardless of the director, the manager, et cetera, that kind of thing. So that's why we're kind of putting a lot of emphasis these days on both of those things. We want to help guys build marketing products, which are building their database, which is why we've launched the automation program. And then the other thing is system side of things. Like systems are a massive thing. And so we're putting a lot of work into that as well. And you can find out more about that at tradiewebguys.com.au/systems. That is also a work in progress, and it will always probably be a work in progress because we're ever evolving it. But anyway, so whatever you're doing in regards to, first of all, collecting data, and second of all, using it, do it ethically. So it's not rocket science. Like nobody wants to see, or like for any of you guys that was news to, I'd be surprised, you can't import Excel spreadsheets and start spam marketing to them. Like that's not really news to anyone. So just do it properly, do it the right way. Get the good opt-in on your website and make it valuable. You should always be adding value. And then once, people opt in for that, give them information that they're looking for. Give them relevant content. Give them stuff they've come to you for information. There's no problem giving it to them, but just don't give them stuff that is completely irrelevant to them or stuff they're not interested in or, stuff they've never actually signed up for in the first place. So what a good workaround too, guys, I should have capped off on this, when we're talking about how to do it right with the marketing and communication. So, when you are sending out, or for example, if you have a system in place where when you're collecting, say customers, you take payment on site, for example, and it's all done through an app or whatever, in your terms and conditions, to protect yourself, you should have something in there saying the emails or the private, the details that we collect at this point of the process will potentially be used to send you promotions, discounts, news, that kind of thing. Just protect yourself from the onset. So there's no animosity when they come back and say, hey, why are you sending me this stuff? You can say, well, when you joined it, when you signed up for, when you paid that bill, or when we sent you that invoice, terms and conditions that were attached clearly outline that we might send you stuff like this. However, if you want to remove yourself, it's not a problem at all. We can remove you. So just sort of try and protect yourself a little bit, like think a little bit forward with that kind of thing. And of course, in that process, we can remove you, or ideally, if you want to remove yourself, all you need to do is click on the unsubscribe button and you won't receive them again. And then you've just got to make sure that when you do that, you're not sending them stuff again. So, a lot of these unsubscribe options can be customized now, which is kind of good as well. For us as marketers, like it's kind of a good thing because it means that people can go, you know what, I don't really want to receive information on hot water heaters, but I'm pretty keen to keep receiving information on renovations. So it gives you the option there. Or of course, it's just like, unsubscribe me. So you'll often see on some of the, on some emails, it'll say manage my preferences or something like that. Or it will say unsubscribe. Unsubscribe is basically gone. Manage my preferences is, okay, well, let me customize what I'm actually receiving. And you could put things in there like the frequency, all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty clever. Anyway, I hope that helped, guys. As I say, so this whole GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, is only really valid for those of you guys that deal with or have customers within the EU. I mean, I know there's a lot of people in the Facebook community that are from the European from Europe. However, it's not yet been implemented to anywhere else but that, except there. However, as I say, I think, and we'll all probably agree on the fact that what we've spoken about today is not really, it's pretty common sense stuff. And for the better part, if you can implement some of these things and make sure that you're doing things correctly, you'll be protected if and when anything does happen within your market. So that was the point anyway. I hope you got something out of that, guys. I will look forward to the next time we speak, and that's a wrap. Dealing with trade organisations on a daily basis, plumbers, builders, electricians, so on and so forth, we see a lot of patterns with companies that are looking to grow but are lacking the fundamental and the foundational tools that will help them facilitate that growth. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys specialise in creating amazing websites that serve as marketing launchpads. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, you really need to make sure that you've got a product which will enable you to do that. Maybe you need more leads. Maybe you need higher conversion from the leads you're currently getting. Maybe you need to re-engage with your existing customers. Maybe you need a content strategy, or maybe you need systems and processes or automation built into your business. These are all things that Tradie Web Guys specialize in. It's specifically been designed for tradies and contractors. So head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/shed, and you can fill in the form there and get your complimentary audit valued at $385. If you want to take your business to the next level, then some things have to change. Tradie Web Guys could have the answer for you. So head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/shed, and we look forward to speaking to you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.